Hey everyone, welcome to Eagles Postgame presented by Ricoh. I'm Marisa Pilla with Fran Duffy and Ike Reese, and Week 12 is now in the books. The Eagles are 10-1 after their 37-34 overtime win, and with their 10th win comes a 10th victory scream.
Ooh, I hope I got it. Victory! Woo!
That was a record.
That scream went to overtime.
That was almost as good as a 59-yard field goal at the rain. Almost.
Yes.
Almost.
Excellent performance.
My goodness, where do we begin with this one, Franny?
We gotta begin at the end in overtime,
Yes.
because that overtime possession there was huge for the Eagles. Their defense once again shows up huge, being able to keep the Bills out of the end zone. Incomplete pass on 3rd and 7 for the Bills looked like a big miscommunication because he was open in the end zone.
Yeah.
So the defense were able to do their job, and the Eagles marched down the field. And is there anything better than a Jalen Hurts game-winning touchdown in overtime in the rain? It's perfect.
It really is incredible. You know, QB1 doing what he does, cool, calm, and collected. Never seemed to panic in this game. The second half, they were down, things weren't looking well. And then all of a sudden, he starts to get going offensively. He's making big throws. His receivers are making big catches. And then more importantly, I thought he did a great job of using his legs today. Obviously on the last touchdown there, but there were some plays where he picked up key yardage, whether it was on 3rd down, whether it was on a 1st down to give him a 2nd and short. I thought Jalen Hurts' legs and him with the running game, along with Swift and the things they did, was a huge part in this comeback. We saw two quarterbacks and how dynamic they can be when throwing the football or using their legs when you look at Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts today. But whoever had the ball last was probably going to win this game, and that's really what it came down to. Buffalo went ahead. At the end of the game, they thought they were going to be able to get out of here with a victory. Jalen leads them down. Jake Elliott, huge 59-yard field goal there. And even in overtime, Marisa, you brought it up, there, you know, it looked like Gabe Davis had a step on Slay there in the end zone, and there's a miscommunication between the quarterback and the receivers, whereas Josh Allen thought he was going to be. And then you see that final drive with the Eagles, big play after big play from our quarterback, and then finally getting into the end zone with that run. I just, you know, my Michigan State education won't allow me to dig deeper into my vocabulary to describe this team with certain adjectives. And at 10-1, you know, we keep saying they haven't played their best football. Well, I disagree with people because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What they have done is form their identity and who they are. And they are never say die team. They don't quit. Things aren't going well. They keep fighting, and that's what today was about. This was a game Buffalo could have very easily walked out of here with, but the Eagles said, not on our watch. We're coming back in this game. What an awesome win.
I think it's one of those games where leading up to this, right, everyone on the outside, it's a short week, on the road, emotional win against the team you just lost to in February. You've got two big games coming up against San Francisco and against Dallas. This is a classic letdown spot against a team in Buffalo that is desperate. They are in playoff mode already in that locker room with the Buffalo Bills. Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, they are playing for their postseason lives. You come out in the first half, you throw for 33 yards, you have an interception, you're 0 for 4 on 3rd down. Everything is pointed towards this being a loss for this team. But what have we seen every single week? This is a team that does not back down. This is a team that does not flinch. When things get ugly, that's when things turn around for this team. So you take all of that pre-game analysis, all the stuff we heard all week, take it and get rid of it, because this team finds a way every single week to turn that on its head and come out with a W.
Fran, I love the animation right there.
Thank you.
What a great throw. But to your point about the second quarter especially, they were in quite a slump, the Eagles. It was interception, punt, fumble. They had the ball for a total of 4 minutes and 32 seconds for the entire second quarter. They were held scoreless. Yeah. And we talk about making adjustments at halftime. Third quarter didn't start out as strong, but then Jalen Hurts led the team to 3 straight touchdown drives. What was the biggest offensive adjustment?
I just think the quarterback just snapped out of it. You know, we often think about the offense, and sometimes it's clicking and sometimes it's not. Well, this isn't necessarily a criticism. It just goes to show how important and impactful the quarterback position is. And once he started playing better, once he started making quick decisions, deciding to use his legs at times, extending drives, picking up first downs, I think that started to get the confidence going of everyone else. Because when things aren't going well and the weather the way that it is, it's very easy to get down on yourselves and say, you know what, today is just not our day. Whatever. But the quarterback just wouldn't allow that to happen. He picked himself up off the ground, and next thing you know, the positive plays started to snowball. 3 straight scoring drives, primarily led by Jalen Hurts, key throws and key runs.
And everybody feeds off each other, right?
Yep.
Because you saw all 3 phases make big plays in this comeback. Jalen Carter blocks a field goal, right? You had a couple missed field goals for this team for Buffalo. One of them a block by Jalen Carter. Defensively, a critical interception from James Bradberry in the second half. Ike, you said it this week on Eagles Game Plan. Josh Allen is going to give you that opportunity. You have to come up with those plays. When your number is called, you have to be able to answer. Bradberry does it. He comes away with the interception. The Eagles are able to put points on the board coming off of that. And everybody, again, it feeds off of one another because then Jalen Hurts is able to reciprocate that with points. And then getting defensively, coming up with that big stop in overtime. Jalen Hurts gets the ball back. I don't know, was there ever a doubt? Like, they crossed midfield and we're looking, I'm like, this is a terrible loss for Buffalo. And you guys are like, Fran, like, calm down. And I'm like, no, like, the Eagles got this in the bag. They've got this. And Jalen Hurts just putting the exclamation point on it. Just an unbelievable performance, an unbelievable win.
Yeah, second straight game that they've had to come from behind for a victory. Second overtime win this season. And it was done in not the best of conditions. It is pouring rain. We can actually hear it in the studio. And someone who is weathering, quite literally, the storm over there at Lincoln Financial Field is Dave Spadaro, our Eagles insider. Dave, we're happy to have you with us. We'll make this quick so you can get out of the rain.
Take your time. It feels great.
But that is such a lie. I know that's a lie. That is a full-faced lie, Dave. We were just talking about the momentum shift we saw in the second half, going into halftime, seeing the Eagles make some adjustments. What was the momentum shift you felt watching the second half?
I think it was the BG sack, and I think the Alameda touchdown catch and the way the Eagles just kept chipping away. I think at one point, at like 11 minutes left in the third or fourth quarter, whatever it was, I turned to in the press box. I'm like, how are the Eagles in this football game? And as you guys all talked about, there was really no explanation for it. 2 turnovers in the first half. We don't need to go through the first half again, but I felt it at that time. The Eagles' offense really got in gear. It's really crazy, the tale of 2 halves. These last 2 games, the adjustments that are made. And I think we need to really emphasize how important coaching is and making adjustments. And the Eagles' defense on the field there at the end without, Milton Williams, without Fletcher Cox, without Zach Cunningham, the offense without Dallas Goedert, without Lane Johnson. For this football team to win a game like this, it speaks volumes about the mental capacity. But I did think that BG with the big sack really kind of turned things around. And I thought Josh Allen got a little bit jittery after that. And then, of course, the Bradberry interception. The Eagles' defense just kind of had that little bit of an edge, and that's all you need to win a game like this.
Exactly. And the Eagles were put in a lot of third down situations with the Bills, and the Bills converted on a lot of them, too. They're one of the best teams on third down conversions, but late in game, they were able to keep them out of the end zone. Defensively, who stood out to you the most?
It's really interesting. You asked, I thought Jalen Carter was outstanding. I thought interior defense from Jordan Davis was also very good to kind of shut off that middle run. I thought that the Eagles in the secondary, I thought Slay played a nice game. The idea coming in here was don't give up the X play. Don't give up the big play. Don't let Buffalo go over the top to Stephon Diggs, and I thought the Eagles did that. They gave up a lot in the zone coverage. They gave up a lot down the field. 3rd and long was a particularly plentiful down for the Buffalo Bills. The Eagles gave up points, and they gave up yards. They gave up over 500 yards. So there are a lot of things to correct, but it's just the way it's so hard to point to one person on offense or defense other than Jalen, because it's such a team concept that wins football games here. It's so hard to explain. I've never seen anything like it. We are waiting to see the Eagles play a great 60 minutes. They are certainly capable of doing that, but right now it is all about the team. You talk about, as Fran did, Jalen Carter blocks the field goal. Then there's another missed field goal. So special teams wins on the day. But I think offensively, defensively, I'll just answer your question because I'm so excited I can barely speak. Defensively, it's just hard to point to one player because it was such a team-oriented with players shifting in and out.
This was such an interesting game, too, because the Bills' offense looks a little different. Second week now with Joe Brady as offensive coordinator, and Josh Allen looked like vintage Josh Allen for most of the game, looking really comfortable and everything like that. But they were able to make him, as you said, a little uncomfortable towards the end of the game. How much of a factor was that to get him off of his stride, especially as overtime was ticking away?
Yeah, I mean, look, it came down to one stop. And really, we can talk about all the other things, but the Eagles forced Buffalo after they won the toss, after the Bills won the toss, to kick a field goal, and the Eagles scored a touchdown. And really, sometimes that's just all it is. The turnaround I can't explain. Josh Allen was outstanding, and Philadelphia was able to hold them. Look, there was a receiver open in that last possession, and it was a poorly thrown ball or a poorly run route. I don't know which. And the Eagles got a little break there, just as they did in Kansas City. To me, what was more impressive was the way the offense turned it around and was almost unstoppable at times, and certainly was unstoppable on that final drive. And even at the end of regulation, you just knew the Eagles were going to put themselves in position for a Jake Elliott routine 59-yard field goal. Amazing.
I know. We said it just adds to the legend of Jake Elliott at this point. Dave, I'll let you go inside, warm up, dry off, whatever you got to do. But thanks so much for your time.
All right, thank you. What a great win for the Eagles. 10-1 is so huge in the race for the number one spot in the playoffs in the NFC. If the playoffs come through Lincoln Financial Field as loud as it was today, classic Kelly Green Day, it's going to be very hard for anybody to win here once again.
That's definitely 1,000% true. 10-1, it sounds pretty good. Eagles sitting at 10-1 right now. And we've said this time and time again, some of these wins haven't been pretty, they haven't been easy, all that, but as you said, this might just be the identity of this team. We're not going to be a pretty team. We're not winning any beauty contests in the way in which we win games, but we're winning games. Heading into what I think is going to be the most highlighted game of their season as they host the 49ers next weekend, a game that is going to be a rematch of last year's NFC Championship that a lot of people around the league might say wasn't a great showing because Brock Purdy got hurt. So I think this was just a huge statement win to kind of keep things rolling now, 4 games unbeaten.
Yeah, I got news for you. I'd be shocked if you saw a pretty game over the next 2 weeks. I mean, you're talking about 2 very good opponents that the Eagles will have to take on, just like today's opponent was. Now, don't get fooled by the record. The talent is there on Buffalo's team. Yep. It's there. And so they came in gamed and desperate, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. So they gave everything that they could to the Eagles. It just was not good enough. And when you play the Eagles, you almost have to be perfect. That's how good of a team the Eagles are. They rarely beat themselves. We had the one hiccup this year against the New York Jets where the Eagles played really a subpar game for their standards. Other than that, other teams are really put under the magnifying glass and having to be perfect each week. Like Josh Allen, I don't know if he could have played much better than what he did today, but the fact that he and Gabe Davis weren't on the same page in the overtime drive, they don't get a win. They had to kick a field goal. Instead, the Eagles get the ball back, and then they go down and win. So when the Eagles get off to a slow start, you had better take advantage of them and keep them down because they're not going to throw the towel in. They're going to force you to keep playing well every possession, every series. And that's what I love about this team. That's why I'm saying to myself, it came to me a couple weeks ago, and maybe it was after the Cowboys game that we played at home, and we were still sort of trying to figure out, well, when's this team going to play a great game or when they're going to play something close to perfection? And I just thought about it, and I'm like, maybe this is who we are this year, right? It doesn't mean we aren't the best team in football because nobody else is doing what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. And that's the bottom line. No other team in this league is playing at their level. And this just may be one of those teams that's going to fight you all the way through. In the last 3 games of the season, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but tell me, they can go out and play perfect against those teams. How much does it matter?
Yeah.
And isn't it more
Giants
so
and the
about
Cardinals.
how you define greatness?
That's what I'm saying. So when you play a team like Buffalo, Kansas City in their house, San Francisco next week, you can't expect a pretty game or a flawless game. You can hope for it, but to expect it, no, these teams are just too good. And the thing that I love is that the Eagles, even when they aren't playing their best, they find a way to dig themselves out of it.
And that's the thing is that all week, I feel like I've heard from multiple outlets, it's like, oh, well, there's no juggernaut in the NFL this year. The Eagles, where do they rank in terms of, are they the worst 9-1 team in NFL history? Am I taking crazy pills? Like,
Yeah.
if you go back,
They are. They're taking crazy
If you go
pills,
back 2
yeah.
months ago, all of those same people would say, "Oh, that stretch in the middle of the season for the Eagles. Like, if they go 500 against the Cowboys and the Chiefs and the Bills, the Dolphins, like if they go 500 during that stretch, they're kind of lucky. That would be a win." All they've done in this gauntlet is win, win, win. Like, weather the storm. Like, they are the storm. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL right now, and they show it week after week by finding different ways to come out with a win.
And oh, by the way, they had the toughest schedule coming into the league this year. And teams that have lost in the Super Bowl the year prior don't usually fare well that following year. It's very rare outside of the Patriots, who we know during their run, they usually came back. But the Eagles to be off to a 10-1 start when they were predicted to have the toughest schedule in the league. They're going through this tough stretch. You know, we like to leave Miami out of the tough stretch.
Right.
I don't.
No.
They're part of the tough stretch as well. They've answered every call they had to, no matter who the opponent has been.
And they faced multiple top 10 opponents.
Yep.
Multiple,
Yes.
I think they faced 9 top 20 receivers in the league. They faced top defenses in the league. They've had different things that challenge them each and every week, and they've been able to rise to that challenge in different ways. So they're showing how multifaceted they are, not blowing out the score. Of course, this was an overtime win, but the Bills are good. A lot of people wanted to write off the Bills as worse than what their record showed, but the Bills are a tough team. They're always someone to be reckoned with, but they weren't any match for Jake Elliott, who hit just a completely insane field goal, and he spoke to the media just moments ago. Let's take a listen.
What's going on your mind is, Jalen strings out 5 straight completions. They're kind of getting in your range leading up to that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a broken record, but during those situations, I'm always in the net, just kind of prepping, trying to feel out the footing, especially in a game like that, how light or how heavy I can be on my plant foot, and just trying to hit the best ball I can. And it was a bit beyond what our range was that we talked about, but we'll take it.
Jake, was the wind kind of like ribbons on top of the post kind of flapping in your direction? I mean,
it was kind of swirling all night. I would say at the beginning of the game that was definitely the tougher end to kick on, but as the game kind of progressed, it became more of a crosswind. So I appreciated that.
Now, did you try not to get under it too much? Kind of hit it
Yeah,
on the line?
I definitely needed to drive it in order to get it there. So took a little air out of it.
It looked like a line drive, so I'm just worried about somebody getting their hands up.
Yeah, I mean, rule number 1 for me is I got to get it there in order to give it a chance. So I know those guys do a great job. We got one of the best units up front there, so I know they're not going to get a lot of push. So they did a great job as always and made a big play as a team.
Jake, there's a stat out there that with less than 2 minutes left in a game, with a chance to tie or win, you're 8 for 8 in your career now. What is it about that clutch, critical moment that you're able to come?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you there. I think those are kind of situations I've always thrived in. Kind of going back to high school through college, I feel like I've been put in those situations quite a bit, and yeah, for whatever reason, I really like those situations. So feel an extra boost of confidence, and like I said, we got one of the best units up front, so they do a great job. Rick threw a great ball in awful weather, and Braden did a great job too. So.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You had previously ranked your best kicks: 1, Super Bowl; 2, 61 against the Giants; 3, 54-yarder this year in overtime, Washington; 48-yarder versus Oakland in the snow or cold; 61-yarder versus Minnesota this year.
Yeah.
Where's this one ranked?
I don't know. I think that was probably, given the conditions and everything, that was probably the toughest one I've had to hit. But I don't know. I don't think I can rank it quite yet.
There's always that school of thought where the other team calls the timeout, to ice you or whatever. I mean, what's your feeling on that? Does that help you? Or?
I stick to the same process regardless of what they do. So my last thought on third down is I hit ball into the net. I'm running onto the field. It feels very rhythmic. So I don't know, guys, if you guys noticed, but when they call a timeout, I go back to the net, hit a ball, run onto the field. Feels the same for me. So don't mind it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, 59 yards in the rain. Jake said it there in the press conference that in terms of like degree of difficulty, obviously the 63-yarder against the Giants in 2017, the field goal against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, huge moments, huge kicks, but I mean, this has got to be up there.
The legend, Jake Elliott, man. Ice water in his veins. Arguably the best athlete on the team. Can certainly play multiple sports. And I love the fact that he stuck with his process that he goes through as far as kicking. So calling the timeout to icing does not work.
No.
Yeah.
Because he's just going through his own process of what he does prior to kicking the ball.
Well, that will certainly go down in Eagles lore, but going down in Eagles history today is Brandon Graham, who made his 189th career game for the Eagles, setting a new franchise record. Here's what he had to say.
The record or winning this game, BJ?
Both of them. You know what? Very thankful, man, just for this, just to still be here. You know, that win was exhausting, but man, it was worth it. And to be still here and you know set a record like that. First, I just want to thank the organization for sticking with me, and I'm very thankful, just for the opportunities that I get still. And so I just try to make the best of them, trying to lead these young boys so that they can carry the torch when I'm gone. But we got to win this thing before I leave.
Sideline and Jalen's got the ball to drive down and win the game. What's scrolling through your mind at that point?
Well, they always talk about Tom Brady with the drives at the end. I'm hoping Jalen start getting that name, and I'm happy that he went out there and just finished the deal. Had a game-winning drive, and keep them coming, and because we gonna need all that. Because I feel like defense always try to put them in the best position that we can, and we love putting it in his hands at the end to give us a chance, and that's one of many that he's gonna have, and so I'm very thankful to be a part of that.
That interception by Bradbury, though, that kind of got things rolling.
Got it going.
Was that a key point in the game?
I think so. I think we was just talking. We gave them two in the first half, two turnovers. The tip, interception, and the fumble between Jalen and Swift. And so the second half was just about playing clean, making sure that we get the ball on defense, and we seemed to got it at the right time. And we fought to the end because we definitely, it was hard. It was hard. We had to bow up sometimes, especially in overtime when we made them kick a field goal. And then I knew I had the confidence that Jalen would, at least put us in field goal range. But then he go out there and go win the game in the end. I mean, that's big time. So very thankful for the team, man, because that was a great team win.
You've been around for 189, so you've seen good times and bad times. What's different about this team? A lot of teams, maybe it's not their day, and they kind of don't want to say give up, but don't fight back. You guys always seem to find a way. Put your finger on something.
You know what? We always talking about, don't let some of these games cost you in the end when you gotta have it, or if that's a first round bye or not. That's the difference between. I just think that this team just take it 1 week at a time. I can't wait till we have our first real, not even perfect, but just the mistakes, they gonna happen, but I think we learn from them and we just keep going. But I want to have a complete game, all three phases, offense, defense, special teams, and I know we working towards that every day. A win is a win. I love the resilient effort that we always have in these games. Nail biters, boy. Even on the sideline, I was exhausted just from all the yelling and screaming and the oohs and the boos and all that. So it's I just know that for us, man, just very thankful just with this team, because the difference is I think it's the mindset. When we out there on that field, you don't really feel nobody saying, "Oh man, Jalen threw a pick," or you don't feel all that, man. You just go take care of your job and go put us in a better position than Jalen did this drive, or the offense did this drive. Whatever it is, don't complain about it. Go do something about it. And so I think that's always the makeup of a great team. And I'm just happy that we get to show it every week. Appreciate y'all.
Love hearing from Brandon Graham right there. And he said something really important that I think we touch on every time, is that they're always just trying to get the other side ready to go for a big play, and getting Jalen, giving him that time to get back on his stride. How did you think of Jalen's progression through this game? Because he started off this game not looking really sharp. Some of his decisions he was making on those RPOs didn't seem like the best. He had that weird miscommunication too on a handoff. Yeah. How did he turn things around?
By sitting over there on the sideline and figuring out what he needs to do to get himself out of the little bit of rut that he was in. And sometimes it's not just him. Sometimes it's the offense in general working. Not having Lane Johnson out there could could disrupt some things. And this Buffalo defense seemed like they ran a lot of stuff Kansas City did last week. So you bring in extra guys. It takes a little time sometimes to figure out what a defense is trying to do to you. You know, the interception, give. I think that was Floyd, right?
The tip.
Yeah, they got the tip. So that, to me, that was more of a play by him than it was on Jalen making a bad play or what have you. So sometimes you got to tip your cap to the defense. And like Brandon just said, you don't hang your hat, or you're not necessarily going on the field being disgruntled and frustrated because you're, as a defense, you've been put in a difficult position. What you need to do is figure out, okay, how can we get our offense the ball back, or how can we go out here and hold them to a field goal? And even if it doesn't necessarily happen in those moments, I think the mindset is what really matters. It's because they don't hang their head. They figure out that they eventually will get things turned around.
Yeah, again, it really kind of speaks to the thought process of the entire team, where you're trusting process over results, right? So if you go to the sideline and hey, we've prepared the way we've always prepared, and I'm going to go in between each drive, I'm going to go back to the bench. I'm going to meet with Brian Johnson. I'm going to meet with Alex Tanney. I'm going to talk through as a staff. I'm going to talk through the offensive line with the receivers, and just have that same conversation. Hey, you know what? Settle down. Everything's going to be fine. And we were saying it, just sitting there watching the game, is when it was a 10-point game, they score one touchdown, they are right back where they want to be, right? And I think that ultimately, when you look at this offense, when you look at this quarterback, they are always going to stay even-keeled, and that is always going to put them on path to success. They always believe that they are in every single game.
Yeah, with no Lane Johnson, too. Where was that absence felt the most, maybe early on? Because it seemed like a lot of that offensive rhythm couldn't get started.
And yeah, it's one thing when you have a player who's injured and he's not practicing all week, so you can kind of prepare for what you want to do with your game plan, how do you want to sort of set everything up. But when you have a player that comes up with an injury late in the week that you haven't necessarily had the time to prepare and change your game plan for, it can be a little difficult, and it could be a little sluggish at the start. And so I think what Brian Johnson and the offense did in the second half is they figured out a way to start moving the ball through the air. I give him credit for wanting to run the football, and DeAndre Swift had some nice runs there. And I love the fact that we did a lot of quarterback design runs. We had some of those today as well. But they needed to start moving the ball through the air and taking advantage, like Buffalo was, of this weather, inclement weather. It's hard for a defense when the weather is like this to play pass defense. It just is, because they have to react to whatever the offensive players are doing, and sometimes the footing isn't there. And I thought as the game went on in the second half, Jalen started getting more and more comfortable throwing the football.
That's the thing, is they came out from the locker room, and that's when it was the very first play. They had that sack on the RPO, Marisa, that you pointed out. And so they come out of the locker room and say, you know what, we're going to go run game, RPO, play action. We're going to try and define some things, just try and build some momentum that way. That sack put them behind the sticks. You had a couple incompletions, and then you had to punt. They get that ball back on the second drive of the second half, and that's when we saw that DeAndre Swift, I think it was a 36-yard run on the very first play. The run game returned, and that's what got the ball rolling in terms of getting touchdowns on the board. 3 straight drives that ended with touchdowns. And it wasn't all run game, but that just allowed some momentum to build for the offense. Get that confidence level up, get Buffalo on its heels, back that pass rush up a little bit, and that's when the Eagles were able to really get the ball rolling offensively. 3 straight touchdowns. The numbers for Hurts, 4 for 11, 33 yards, the pick, and then the fumble that you alluded to with Kenny Gainwell. That was all the first half. He comes back in the second half, 14 of 20, 167 yards, 3 touchdowns, and the game-winning touchdown run on a design QB draw. So I think when you look at first half versus second half, the numbers are going to be insane. But I think ultimately, again, it speaks to process over results. And Jalen Hurts and this offense, they're always going to trust their process going into each and every possession.
Can I take a moment real quick to give BG some love?
Sure, right? Of course.
Yeah.
189 games that he's played, set the franchise record. Had the big sack in this game that I thought also gave the team a huge boost. We heard Spadero talking about that earlier in the broadcast tonight. I just think Brandon Graham, when you want someone that represents your organization, when you want someone to be a culture tone setter in your locker room, what it means to be a Philadelphia Eagle. When players get drafted here, I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Lurie and his staff, they want players that take pride in wearing these colors. They wear that helmet with the wings on the side of it. And I don't know if anybody has ever exemplified that. Maybe Brian Dawkins, I put Dawkins in that certain category. But BG, when you talk about his path, his journey, where it didn't look good early in his career, he dealt with some injuries. He had to overcome some things to become a Super Bowl hero. We know the big sack he had against Tom Brady in Super Bowl 52 to help us win that game. I can't be happier for a guy than BG, man, because this dude, he puts it all out there. He gives everything to this organization. And to take the role that he's taken this year after what he's accomplished throughout his career, and he's taken this role and embraced it. And he doesn't mind being a mentor to these younger players and helping their careers along. Man, we can't take for granted when you got players like Brandon Graham that represent your organization, man. I couldn't have been happier for a guy today to have some type of success out there, and he showed up.
And we talked about that last year when he was the Eagles nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year. It's just so well deserving. And we talked about the Eagles, when are they going to get that pretty win? With Brandon Graham, you mentioned it, Ike. It wasn't the prettiest start to his career, right? He had that fast start, then he had the torn ACL, I believe it was, as a rookie, and then he comes back. It was kind of an up and down after that. And then they change schemes. They go to the 3-4. That wasn't a great fit for him. They bring in Connor Barwin. He's a backup. And he very easily could have gone to the tank. It wasn't a great fit for him, but he stuck through it. He became an outstanding run defender, was consistently getting after the quarterback at every opportunity, fought through it, and then became one of the best players in franchise history. And so Brandon Graham, hats off, obviously, on a huge day for him, but a huge day for the team as well.
Huge weekend for him.
Yes.
Yeah. 189.
That's as far as I'll go with that.
All right, Big Ten fans will know what
189 career games for him, and keep counting for him. And he's done it all with so much heart, as you guys have said. We're continuing to recap this big overtime win. We're heading back into the locker room to hear from Devontae Smith now, who wants to talk again about that huge field goal.
Oh, that's money every time. No doubt in my mind.
I know some guys don't watch, some guys do. Or you watch?
I'm watching. And if you don't watch, it's because you scared of what may happen. I know it's money, so I'm going to watch it.
So Smith calling Elliott money, but Smith was money too in overtime because he had that huge reception through the middle, 17 yards, got the first down conversion in overtime, and then he converted a 3rd and 3, which helped set up that Jalen Hurts game-winning touchdown. So he showed up big in this game too, and he's kind of that slow burn a little bit this season where he'll pick defenses apart here and there, and he hasn't had those big explosive plays. He only had 99 yards, I think, last game, and he's getting a little bit maybe warmed up in this one, but he showed up big in overtime when they needed him.
Kind of like last year. This is kind of where he took off last year. You know, AJ, the great receiver that he is, eventually he's going to draw more coverage. And he went on a run there of consecutive games with over 125 yards to where he was looking at MVP type of considerations. And eventually, defenses are going to say, okay, beat us with someone else. And this is the benefit of having a talent like a Heisman Trophy winner, a top 10 pick, as the other number 1 receiver. So we got a 1A and a 1B, and Devontae comes up with big catches. He comes up with a lot of tough catches. AJ doesn't surprise you when he comes up with tough catches because of his size and everything. But Devontae, man, when he decides to go up for a football, he usually comes down with it. And so having him to be opposite of AJ is an awesome, awesome benefit for this offense. And you're starting to see that now. 3 out of the last 4 games, I know those 2 games, he only got 99 yards, but I'm counting it as 100-yard games, 3 out of the last 4 games.
He had 2 big catches on the second touchdown, including one that obviously ended up in the end zone. But that, I believe it was a 17-yarder in overtime, the one that you referred to, Marisa. I cannot wait to watch that one on film because that looked to me, based off the angles that we saw, to be Jalen Hurts' best throw of the day. I cannot, maybe outside of the OZ.
That's what I was going to say.
I know, all right. Well, outside of that one, the best throw from Jalen Hurts in this game. But Devontae, he came up with big catch after big catch after big catch. It felt like this game was one where the Eagles, it was either like 3 and out or just masterpiece of a drive. Run game and pass game all working in concert. It was really something to watch.
I have no idea how Jalen Hurts made that throw to OZ. I mean, you want him to scramble to his left as a quarterback.
Yeah, that's a win for the defense.
That's usually a win for the defense because he usually doesn't throw the ball as much going to his left. But he was able to escape the pocket, get to his left. I thought he was just going to run and take off. But he's waving guys down the field, and then the ball he threw to Alameda. My goodness, man. He's made some nice throws this year. I know you want to break down the one with Devontae.
I know.
I wish you were breaking down this one here. I look at this throw, man. Look, he's like, go downfield. Look at that.
That's like playground stuff.
Oh my God!
And remember,
that was double coverage right there.
And remember the throw he had to OZ against the Bucks, and that one was he was in the pocket all day.
Yep.
But this one is obviously something different. Rolling to your left, throwing across your body, downfield, 2 guys on him.
Man.
On a third down too, wasn't it? It was just unbelievable throw, unbelievable catch.
That's
3rd and 15.
3rd and 15. Look at this play, man. This is. Listen, I know it's early to be talking about those 3 letters that only we care about. I know Jalen doesn't care about it, but that's.
I don't think it's too early.
Yeah.
Put that on the resume.
Yeah,
put that on the resume.
That's an MVP highlight
Yeah.
right there. That's an MVP caliber throw right there. And the way they won this game today, that's an MVP caliber win.
Well, you need people to make those kinds of throws
Yep.
in situations like that. And Jalen Hurts has been that player for this team all season long. When his back is against the ropes, he's able to put this team together, especially after having a poor first half. Second week in a row, they were down 17-10 at halftime. And we also want to let you know that if you do have a question for Ike, Ask Ike, presented by Ponley Hockey. He will answer any and all questions that come on through after this overtime win. 2nd overtime win of the season. They don't get much easier, these overtime wins. But as we said, a win is a win. We're chalking it up as that and kind of defining what greatness means to this team. Because
aren't you having fun?
I'm having fun.
Come on,
Everybody should be having fun. 10-1. How are you not having fun?
Exciting games every week that we come out on. It's one thing to have these type of games and we lose a few.
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun to have these type of games when we win the majority of them.
Well, my wife asked me last week. It was after the Chiefs game. It was the next morning. She was like, "I don't know how you're like going right now." They were texting early in the morning. I was like, "It's always easier when they win.
It's
You
always
lose those
easier
games.
when
And
they win.
it's tough on Monday morning." But the Eagles keep finding ways to be able to win these games. 10-1. This is the best team in the NFL.
Yeah. And I think maybe a lot of people might have questions on if they're so good, why do they need to keep finding these ways? Shouldn't they? But we said there's not going to be blowouts. They have a really tough schedule.
Yeah.
And these are opponents who are lighting up other teams throughout the league. So they're coming in with a lot of different looks. And as you said, everyone's trying to play their best football against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're showing different looks against the Philadelphia Eagles than they do in other games. It's hard to scout some of these defenses who keep messing with Jalen Hurts' mind. And he keeps, at least for now, winning these mind games. Here's a look at the schedule so far, and you can see. I mean, Cowboys, that game was, I think that took years off my life, the Cowboys game. Then we headed into the bye week, went to Kansas City, left with a win, which is no easy feat to do, an overtime win. And then look at the stretch coming up. San Francisco, the Cowboys again in Dallas, in Seattle, which is an incredibly tough place to play. And then we got the Giants and Cardinals, and I'll leave it at that. But for the short road ahead, it's not getting much easier.
The bye week feels like a month ago.
Right?
Yeah,
it felt like it didn't happen.
In both of those games, Kansas City and Buffalo, you saw where the mental toughness of this team really shows itself. Because, like we said, both of those games didn't get off to great starts. Turnovers. You're talking about being down 10 points at the half. You know, a team that doesn't have the mental toughness that this team has and the experience that they have from winning last year, they could very easily have gone in the tank. You don't see a lot of finger pointing on the sideline. You don't see frustration boiling over on the sideline. You know, they get back to work over there. And I believe it starts with the quarterback because you don't see those types of emotional roller coasters from him. He's usually even keel, even when things aren't going well. They showed a shot of him on the bench in the first half. It was a tough stretch there. And I'm sitting there watching. I'm like, I wonder what he's thinking about. Like, what is going through his mind right now? He has like this stare where he's looking straight forward. I mean, there's all type of people around him moving around, coaches making corrections with other players and everything. And he's just locked in and focused to where you know he's thinking. He's trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get better? How are we going to move the football this time around? What are they trying to do to me? You just don't see him doing a lot of wasted motion and a wasted energy over there. He preserves it and conserves it for on the field.
I don't think I've seen anyone mentally locked in like Jalen Hurts. He and Nick Sirianni have this team at 10-1. Nick Sirianni becoming the third coach in NFL history to lead their team to 10-1 starts in back-to-back seasons. Here's what Coach had to say.
How y'all doing?
Nick, where you were in the first half to 30 points in the second half, just what did you learn about your team, but also what changes did you make on offense to get things going?
You know what? It couldn't have been much worse of a first half. We got to the run game really going in the second half. our guys were really doing a good job of executing in that second half, and that was an offensive explosion in the second half, right? I mean, and it had to be because they were good too. And man, I think that there was a notion that game could be high scoring going into it. Then at halftime, it was going to be a little battle, and then it got high scoring again. And so, just really, really excited for our guys on offense that just put their head down and just kept going, right? And that's mental toughness, right? I already know this team, this Philadelphia Eagles team, is physically tough, and you get mentally more tough throughout the year when you go through ups and downs. And man, that was a down first half, and but we have a mentally tough group as well as physically tough group that just stuck with it and kept fighting, and it turned.
With what happened in Kansas City, and then to be down again and to make this comeback, did you sense a sort of confidence from your team, no matter what the situation was?
Yeah, our guys know how to win. Why do our guys know how to win? Well, part of that's a product of what we've done here the last couple years. Part of that's a product of we got some guys that are still on from the 2017 Super Bowl team. Part of that is we got a lot of guys from Georgia that win a lot. That have won a lot. We got a lot of guys from Alabama who've won a lot, and so that's something. And again, I think the most important one is that we've done it together, right? You can win at all these different places, but when you do it together and find ways to win together, nobody flinches, right? And so, I just felt like that's what it was. I mean, we've been in this situation before. We got the ball to start the second half. It didn't go so well, right? Then we got to stop. Then we got being down just 10. There's a lot of football left to play. And shoot, that's why they play 60 and not 30 minutes.
Last week, Hurts made the move towards the pass to Devontae today, the touchdown. What was his role within that you saw in him in another big moment?
Who is that, Devontae? Oh, Jalen. Yeah, just clutch in clutch moments, right? There's going to be plays that he wants back from the first half. There's going to be plays that we called that we're going to want back from the first half. But really, really made some big-time plays when they mattered the most. None more than he had 3 touchdown passes. I thought he hit the Devontae, he read the defense perfectly and hit the ball to Devontae on the touchdown. But what an unbelievable throw and catch by OZ and Jalen on the touchdown on the scramble. I mean, my goodness, that was a good play. And so, man, he made a lot of really clutch plays in that second half. And then, the big one, obviously, at the end right there, we did a great job of blocking up front, and Jalen got himself through there for a touchdown in a clutch moment. And, man, what you learn about – I don't think it's anything you learn about him because you know that he's clutch. He's been clutch for us and clutch for this city and clutch for this team for the past, 3 years now. And, and so he just kept, going and put his head down and worked and made some big time plays at the end.
When did you find out about Lane this morning, and how did that kind of change your game plan?
Yeah, this morning, obviously we found out about that, and then Brian and I were in here, did some different things with the game plan, to account for that, because obviously Lane's one of the best players in the NFL. There's no doubt in my mind that Lane Johnson is one of the best players in the world. And so, we have a ton of confidence in Jack Driscoll. And Jack Driscoll, I haven't seen the tape, but I have a feeling that he played an outstanding game because of just the way the game was going and the rush and all those different things. But when you lose Lane Johnson's special, right? He's different. And so, yeah, we found out early this morning. Lane wanted to play and wanted to go, tough it out. Just didn't feel like he could in that sense, and I know that hurt Lane that he wanted to play badly in this game. But guys stepped up in his absence. That happened with Zach Cunningham too. Christian Ellis came in and made some big time plays. We knew that it was going to take everybody. When you're playing a team like the Bills, it's going to take everybody's contribution to win, and we got everyone's contribution, right? And some different than others that had to contribute more than they might have thought coming into this game. And I'm really happy for those guys that were able to do that.
A lot of what they got offensively is Josh on third down, running, avoiding pressure. What's it like watching that from the sideline? Are you screaming? Are you frustrated? Is there any part of you that's going, I can't believe that this guy's doing this?
He's special. This is a players' league that there's players that just make plays in clutch moments, and he kept making big time plays. He's an outstanding player, and we just ended up with the ball last. Is really what ended up happening. To watch Josh Allen live was very impressive. He's a heck of a football player. Of course, it's frustrating in those scenarios, but you got to give them all the credit because we had him wrapped a couple times. We had him in an open field tackle a couple times, and he's a big, strong man who can change directions too. It was a lot of respect for that man.
How did you have to help Jack?
We obviously did a lot of our plan, looking how we were going to help him, what we could do, and starting off a little bit early in the game to do some of those things, but then he settled in and he played a really good game. And so we felt like as the game grew on, we felt like, and that was our plan, and see how the game was going and see if we have to continue there. And as the game grew on, we continued to gain more and more confidence in Jack's ability to stop this rush. And I thought, again, it's hard for me to say exactly how that he played without watching the tape, but it seemed like he played a really good game. And again, big contribution by Jack Driscoll.
You mentioned not flinching prior. What's it like for you? 59-yard field goal, that weather, you got to trot Jake out there in that situation.
Nobody I'd rather have in the NFL more than Jake Elliott. To me, he's the best kicker in the NFL. He's so clutch. Right? I guess thoughts of the Washington game were in my mind, right? And we actually showed that clip yesterday. We went through the room and talked to everybody about the contribution. And I couldn't hit everybody, but I hit about 25 guys about the contribution that they're going to have to make for us to win this game. And one thing I said to Jake was, we're going to need your clutch contribution. Nobody else we'd rather have in the world than Jake Elliott kicking a field goal on that, and he was clutch. And that, but because this is the greatest team sport there is, it couldn't be done without the protection. It couldn't be done without the snap by Rick, the hold by Braden, and the kick by Jake. So I didn't watch it. I still didn't watch it. I had to get Clay and Fletch pointing at me that day he made it. But, man, he's clutch, and glad he's our kicker.
As frustrating as it was for you.
Proud right now. Are you more relieved or proud of that team because your numbers were horrible for the early part of the third quarter, and then you came back. And you came back from 10 twice, and you come back from 10 3 times in the last few games, and you did what you did at the end.
Yeah.
And you did it undermanned, vastly undermanned.
That's why they make it play 60 minutes, right? And so that's why you can't look at the numbers or anything like that. You just got to keep putting your head down and fighting, and our guys did that. And that really just shows the mental toughness of our guys. I'm happy, right? I'm happy, and I'm glad that we can learn from this. I think that's my emotion that I have. I'm extremely happy that we found a way to win this football game. I'm extremely happy that the corrections will be made after a win than after a loss, right? And, because there's going to be corrections that have to be made, and that's what we do here. We make our corrections. We hold each other accountable, starting with myself, and then with our leaders, and it just, that's contagious. The accountability is contagious, and that's how you get better. And so we got to get better from this, but, happy is the emotion that I have right now.
Last one. As frustrating as it was to see Josh Allen run around doing the things that he was doing, how comforting was it for you that at the end you got your guys to do pretty much the same thing?
Yeah, Jalen made some big-time plays with his feet today on some scrambles. I think, you can see that he's feeling pretty good, right? And that he just made some big-time plays. When the pass game wasn't going well, somehow he found a way to make plays. And so, you could see him have that acceleration that we're all used to seeing. We could see it, the ability to change direction, the power when he makes a cut. You saw all that. And again, like I said, Jalen, had a great second half. He had a great second half. And Josh Allen was, as frustrating as it may have been, he still made a lot of plays. It was something to watch. And I got a lot of respect for him and the plays they made.
All right.
You got one, Sal? You sure?
All right. Let's do it. Jalen will be in.
That was head coach Nick Sirianni after their overtime win over the Buffalo Bills. And an important part that he talked about there was the defense, because a big change, a momentum shift that could have potentially played into the Bills' favor was when Fletcher Cox got injured in the second quarter. He was out of the game, looked like a groin injury, but that is a huge veteran presence missing for this Eagles defense. And then the young guys, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, stepped up huge for the remainder of this game. What did you guys see out of both of them?
Yeah, and we're already short on bodies at that position. You know, Milton Williams not being available for them today. So when Fletcher went down, I'm saying, okay, the young Bucks, they got to go in there, and they're probably going to get the majority of the snaps. And this is what our future is going to look like. These are our two young pillars of the defense moving forward. And they showed up and played today, big time. You know, Josh Allen, it's not easy to bring down. He's a big quarterback who doesn't usually slide. He's a guy that's looking to either run you over or run past you. But I thought Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter made plays. Jalen Carter with a big block field goal to help get some momentum going in the Eagles' favor. And the big thing for me was watching these young guys late into the game. It didn't look like they were running out of steam. You know, it's probably the most snaps they played all year.
Probably.
Since Fletcher had gone out. So they had to take on the majority of the burden out there as the anchors in the middle of the defense. And you know what? Other than Josh Allen running, I thought we did a pretty good job with those guys.
Yeah, I think when you look at, I thought there was a great point about the snap counts, because I got to think that played a favor, especially when you look at how often Buffalo was trying to run the football. You know, late in the game, they're trying to run it, and they were having success. But then you get into overtime, and what was the theme that we were noticing throughout overtime? They're trying to run on first down, and they were going nowhere. Jordan Davis was all over it. But there was the one play late. I feel like we have to point out, we have to call out Jordan Davis chasing down Josh Allen on that scramble. It ended up being like 2 or 3 yards, but it could have gone for more. That could have been a first down plus, but Jordan Davis just hauling it over to the sideline and getting him out of bounds. Outstanding play, outstanding effort, and then bringing it back to Fletcher Cox. Josh Tolentino from the Inquirer had tweeted out during the game that Fletcher Cox, who was on the sideline in the second half in street clothes, was giving an emphatic pep talk to Jordan Davis before that drive. It was like, you know, getting after him, saying, hey, like, let's go. This is the time to turn it up. So the vet still having an impact, even though he can't be out there. Fletcher Cox having a really good season so far, both against the run and against the pass. He was missed on the field, but still finding ways to be able to impact this team, and that's the mark of a true leader.
Yeah, I love how we've talked about earlier in the season that you can see almost Fletcher Cox being rejuvenated in a certain way, playing with these young guys on the field who are making these big plays and getting after it and going for it. And then that staying part of his game, even when he's on the sidelines, that he's still able to inject his knowledge, his enthusiasm into this team.
And I'm telling you, and I know this isn't Fletcher's character or personality, so I'm not surprised that he was out there, but I want to point it out. Whatever injury he's dealing with, he put that to the side and wanted to be out there for his teammates. Could have very easily stayed in the locker room. It's nasty weather. It's cold. You're standing around out there. And normally your adrenaline has died down. So he feels that cold weather. But the fact that he wanted to be out there to be a help for those young players when they come to the sideline. Again, we talked about Brandon earlier. Well, here's another example. Culture, tone setters, guys that's been around here and knows what it's like to win. And not only that, knows what the importance and the significance of wearing his uniform and representing it the right way. Fletcher being out there was no surprise, but I also don't want to undersell it, because some veterans would have gone in that locker room and said, you know what, I'm hurt. I'm not standing out there in the rain. In the rain. Yes.
And you know, we saw Lane Johnson out there. Lane Johnson, we know, epitomizes that. You know that he did everything he could to get out on the field today after waking up with that soreness and trying to make sure he can cut his way through. But the Eagles keeping him out today. I think when you look at that leadership on both sides of the football, it shows up in games like this.
Yeah, you talk about culture guys, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, who had a big night, 189th career game, and it was Jason Kelsey who actually talked about him making that history.
He's an incredible player, incredible person. He means a lot to this organization. So to obviously get the win here today on such a milestone for him in his career means a lot to the guys that have been here for a long time. And it was really fun to watch.
You know what it's like to be young.
Love when the offense gives the defense some love. And how could you not love that for Brandon Graham? As we said, he's somebody who's just given his heart and soul to this team. And for him to be able to make some history as well is pretty neat to see. And an overtime win just is a cherry on top, right?
Sure. And the big play he made to contribute to it. And right there is the second longest tenured player on the football team, and Jason Kelce coming the year after Brandon Graham.
And Jason Kelce, by the way, we know that he set some milestones this season. He delivered the huge block on that QB draw for Jalen Hurts, the game winner in overtime. So all the vets chipping in all kinds of ways tonight.
Yeah, this was a bit of a wild game, not just because of the overtime victory for the Eagles and that crazy 59-yard field goal by Jake Elliott, but look at this from Ed Werder from ESPN Stats. The Bills are the 40th team since the 1970 merger to have 500 yards, 10 third down conversions, and a positive turnover margin in a game. They are the first team to lose in that scenario. The teams previous were 39-0. What do you even make of this, knowing that the odds are quite literally stacked against you if you're the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, and if Josh Allen connects with Gabe Davis on that throw in overtime, game is over.
Right.
And they wind up winning this game. And I don't think we should take away from what the Eagles did to win the game, but you tip your cap to the Buffalo Bills, who came in with a lot to play for. Their playoff hopes are still alive. This was a big game for them. And Josh Allen is a top 5 quarterback. I know sometimes he may not look like it because of some of his decision making, but since Joe Brady has taken over as the OC, they've seemingly gotten him to settle down and calm down and sometimes take what the defense is giving you underneath as opposed to trying to look for the big plays. And he had an awesome game today. I mean, he really did. He made the one throw that was really more about Bradbury making a great play defensively than it was Josh Allen made a bad throw or tried to make a heroic play, and it cost his team. So the Eagles, to be able to overcome one of the top players in the league playing one of his best games, and they still find a way to get the victory, it just speaks to how good this team is overall. And it speaks to how difficult it is if you're the opponent, that you don't have much room for error. You don't have much margin for error when you play the Eagles. This version of the Philadelphia Eagles, I won't go as far as saying they remind me of the Patriots during their heydays, but the mindset of when you're playing a team like that who's used to winning, you almost feel like you have to be perfect every time you play them because they're going to make you pay for it. And that's what the Eagles are starting to build with this 2023 edition of the football team. That's why I say sometimes it may not look pretty on the outside, but it forces other teams to really play a perfect game, which is hard to do.
Yeah, we've seen that from the Eagles. We're still waiting for a perfect game from them, but they're 10-1, so it's a pretty good place to be. And it's interesting, back-to-back weeks, they had Marquise Valdez-Scantling drop a pass in the end zone, and then Gabe Davis open in the end zone and wasn't able to connect. So it's interesting, these late games that could be so different for the Eagles, but they're able to find a way to win. And one of the big reasons why is because they have Jalen Hurts, and he has 14 consecutive wins over teams with winning records. Here's what he had to say about the press just moments ago.
Being able to meet the moment, whether it was the second half or the overtime, or just when you've done so consistently, meeting that moment when it presents itself to you?
I just, first off, a great team effort, a great team win. I kind of had a little reflection moment of what am I supposed to say? What do you guys want me to say? And we just continue to find ways to win. We continue to find ways to win. We play together. We've shown our resiliency day in and day out, game in and game out. We've been challenged in a number of different ways, but we always find a way, and that's something you can't really take for granted, and it's hard to quantify. Obviously, we have a ton to clean up. I have a ton to clean up. I have not executed to the level of my standard and what that is yet. And, it seems to be enough. But in terms of the standard that I like to play to consistently, and I'd like us to play to consistently as a team, enough is never enough. And so you just want to continue to strive for more and play to that standard, But I think in those moments, you just truly never want to get too high, never get too low. And, we found a way in the end, and we made it happen.
The Eagles' record with Lane Johnson in the lineup versus when he's not in the lineup is very great difference.
How did you guys manage to pull it out?
It was another gutsy win for us, another gutsy win. Jack stepped in and played a hell of a game. Being put on the spot. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. This happened in 2021 versus the Chiefs, and he came in and played a great game as well. And so, I mean, it's being ready, having an opportunity. And I know as a competitor, Jack was ready for that opportunity after how the Jets game went, and he played a hell of a game this time around.
Jalen, on that class,
when there's adversity or you're trailing, you said experience is the greatest teacher this week. Is it all the experiences you've had?
I say so. It's definitely, it's definitely been a unique journey for me. A unique journey, a very unprecedented journey, and that is something that not many can relate nor compare to. And so, I guess it kind of shows itself sometimes that it's kind of built me in different ways.
Jalen, on a walk-off touchdown, looked like DeAndre went in motion. Is that sort of something that you have to be keen of to see the defense moving towards that before?
Yeah, there are reads on every play, but I just think it was a great ball play. It was a great ball play, well executed, and for us, I shake my head and kind of don't know. I shake my head and I don't really know how to feel sometimes because I just want to play to the standard at all times, and I just want to, lead and play to the standard at all times, and that's why it's kind of like it's weird for me, but as a team we play together, we lean on one another, and we have each other's backs, and I think we just continue to find ways to win, in a tough league versus really great teams, really great quarterbacks, and really great defenses. So we just need to continue to get better.
Jalen, what do you mean weird? Are you balancing, the good things you did in certain situations versus maybe mistakes earlier in the game? What do you mean it's kind of weird to be in a situation?
I think weird is it's just a standard. I talk about it all the time. It's the standard, and it's in a sense manipulative to myself because winning is the only thing that matters, but the standard is pretty darn important too, and so that's what it is.
On that touchdown run, how did you know the safety was?
When you rolled left and kept the play alive, it looked like there was a whole lot of room to get that ball to. What did you see?
I have to watch the film, but I saw what I saw, and we made it happen. He made a great catch. Schmitty made a great catch on his. AJ made some big-time plays there, missed a couple throws to him. And Swift, again, kind of ignited us. And again, in another game, a consecutive week of igniting us and making a big run. And, we found a way. We found a way when it mattered most.
On that touchdown run, how did you know the safety was going to clear?
I didn't know. Just reacting.
Jalen, how much pride do you take in the clutch label?
That's not for me to discern or roll with. I just truly go out there and try and play to the standard and be the best that I can be for my team. And there are times today that I feel like I didn't do that, but when it mattered most, I feel like we did a good job of doing what we need to do. We played team football, we communicated well, and that's all in the outcome of what happened. We really were on the same page when it mattered the most, and that's all you can ask for. Anything else that I'm named or people on the road with, I guess that's for them to do so.
Being steady-handed in
late game situations, Jalen? Is that something that you innately have, or is that something that you kind of forge over time?
Just think experience is the biggest teacher. You know, and I think that's for y'all to decide truly.
After the game, there's a chance it seemed like it was a broken play. What is it that goes through your mind when you make that throw, and when he came down with it? If you could take us through that moment.
It's just making it happen. I think it's I say the same things all the time, whether we lose or we win. However it comes out, whatever it is, I preach the same things and how there's just a true eagerness to just get better. And, you know, in that moment, it's just in the mentality of trying to make it happen. Not trying, making it happen. That's the mentality. And he made a great catch. You know, can't tell you what I saw, break the play down or anything like that, but I have to watch the film. But, you know, we were in the mode of making it happen. And there are opportunities for us to do that all throughout the game, and we did not. But we did it when it mattered the most. And so I take away from that just learning from it and growing from it. I mean there is nothing to be satisfied about. We have to play cleaner. We have to be better. Obviously, a great win, a resilient win. But we just continue to challenge ourselves to be better, and we're eager to do so. And it takes everyone getting on the same page. What our plan of attack is, what that looks like, being efficient in whatever we call. All of those things matter. But we're finding ways to win, and I mean that's 10 games won. You know, we just want to kind of keep it rolling, but we want to keep growing. You know, we got to continue to get better.
Thanks, y'all. Thanks, everyone.
Jalen Hurts now has 37 career rushing touchdowns, which puts him alongside of Brian Westbrook for the 4th most in franchise history. Let that sink in. So if that sounds crazy to you, this might sound even more wild because he is making history again. Jalen Hurts, according to Adam Schefter, 10 rushing TDs in 2021, 13 in 2022, and now 11 this season. He's the first quarterback ever with at least 10 rushing TDs in 3 consecutive seasons. Can this man be stopped? I don't want to see it happen.
Well, we certainly know one thing. It certainly can't be stopped. We get to that 1 yard line. Yeah. It's a guaranteed or close to guaranteed.
Well, and then we talked last week on Monday night about the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, that it was a record, an NFL record, 7 straight come-from-behind victories when he was down by 10-plus points. So when the team was down by 10-plus points, he had led them to victory 7 straight times. Well, he extended that record tonight. He is now 8 times. The second highest quarterback on that list, 4. So he just doubled that streak. Just outstanding work from not just Jalen Hurts, obviously, but the entire team.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see that this team is able to turn performances around because, as we said, that first quarter, second quarter especially was just not anywhere close to what Jalen Hurts likes to call the standard. But they turned things around, able to get that 10th win of the season. Now, he set up his first TD of the game came early on, and it helped because Kenny Gainwell had a huge gain leading into that. Fran broke that down in this week's Ricoh review. Let's take a look.
All right, so for this week here on the Ricoh Review, we're going to look back at the most successful play from the only touchdown drive in the first half. This is going to be a 23-yard run for running back Kenny Gainwell, and it's going to be off one of the Eagles' staples in the run game. It's called split zone, where you've got the offensive line all working to the left, and you've got the tight end working back to the right to block the backside defensive end. And so the key blocks here that are going to happen are going to be on the backside defensive tackle, and that's going to come from Jason Kelce and right guard Cam Jurgens. They're going to work up to the backside nose tackle. You've got the tight end Jack Stoll. He's coming back to get the backside defensive end. But just watch, because this gives us a really good visual. When you have that blue line of scrimmage line there from the broadcast, look at the movement that the Eagles get up front. Just watch that pile move backwards here as we let this roll. You can see the offensive line really go to work at the point of attack. Gainwell makes a nice read. He makes the safety miss at the third level. Really nice job from the backside of the Eagles offensive line. I can think back to a coach from the Eagles telling me a few years back that backside blocks they win championships. That's what creates those explosive plays. We saw that here on this play. Jalen Hurts brings in a brotherly shove for a touchdown on the very next rep, and the Eagles get on the board. Their only touchdown in the first half, set up by the run game.
Now is your chance to vote for the Toyota Player of the Week. Go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com/Toyota Player of the Week to cast your vote and get a chance at a brand new Toyota. Here are the nominees. We first have Jake Elliott, a 59-yard field goal to tie the game with 20 seconds left in the rain, no less. That's going to be tough to beat, or is it? Because Brandon Graham suited up for his 189th career game. He also had that huge sack in the fourth quarter to put an exclamation point on it. And then there's Jalen Hurts, game-winning TD, threw for 3, ran for 2. Is this just in the bag for Hurts?
Yeah, as much as I want to give it to DG, I can't give it to him today.
Yeah,
it's got to go
not
Jalen.
today.
We usually try and find ways to disagree.
No.
This one we can't disagree. This has got to be.
I mean, look at these numbers. I mean, we threw out some just insane historical things, too. The first quarterback to have 3 consecutive seasons with at least 10 rushing TDs. Yep. He's tied fourth all time for rushing TDs alongside Brian Westbrook.
Yeah. And he made some throws out there today.
Great throws.
He made some throws out there today, yeah.
And you just saw how smart he is, too, because you saw him having to work through different problems he saw developing as things go. And I know we're near the end of the show, Ike, but we do have an Ask Ike question for you. Okay. And this fan wants to know, who is your favorite Eagles player? Now, I'll let you I'll give you the easy out because I'm feeling good because they're 10-1. Current Eagles player. Current Eagles player only.
That way I don't have to choose between my former teammates and my favorite player or not. Current Eagle players, I'm going to still cop out. I got 4 of them.
Oh, come on.
But you hear me talk about them all the time. And it's the faces of the franchise. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Jason Kelce, and Lane Johnson. Those are truly my 4 favorite players. They've been here the longest. I've got to watch them come in and get drafted and develop into who they are right now as Eagle greats. They helped bring us our first ever Super Bowl. So those will forever be this era over the last 15 years, my 4 favorite players. Can't pick between the 4.
I have an Ask Ike.
Oh, go for it, Fran.
Well, the Kelly Green jerseys came back this week, and I thought, look, we've talked a lot about the players' fits and the players' wardrobes going to games. I thought we were going to get the Kelly Green bow tie again.
No, you know what? I couldn't do the Kelly Green bow tie, even though I should have because we won in that game. But I wanted to be twins with you.
Yeah, that's true. The bow tie, I mean, that like rocked the chat. The chat was all talking about the bow tie after the Dolphins game.
There was some high-quality bow tie talk in the chat for sure. Yeah.
Well, I got a pet peeve. We don't double up.
This man is not an outfit repeater, if anything. Well, as we said, the Eagles are in a bit of a gauntlet part of their schedule right now, and it's safe to say that all eyes are still going to be on Philadelphia next weekend as the 49ers come to town. This is a game that many people around the league have circled. Top teams in the NFC. This is a rematch of last year's NFC Championship. Oh man, this is going to be tough. If the Eagles could only prioritize one thing next week, what does it need to be?
You better stop 23.
Yeah.
Stop McCaffrey. Yeah. I mean, they get that lineup, and look, this is a fun offense to watch. I studied them all day Friday, a good chunk of today as well, and I think when you look at this offense, when it is operating on all cylinders, it is very difficult to stop. Defensively, they have really found their groove. It is all generated off that 4-man pass rush. That said, I mean, this is San Francisco's Super Bowl. They've been talking about this game since February. All they do is talk about this game and how they were wronged and how it was unfair that they couldn't have 7 quarterbacks dressed for the game. So
get over it.
They are gonna be very emotional.
And they played Thursday, so they were all sitting at home watching this game. They watched this game, and honestly, I think these are the 2 best teams in football. I thought it was the Eagles in Kansas City until you get to watch Kansas City a little bit more and dive into those numbers. Now they have the pedigree, so I wouldn't discount Mahomes and Coach Reed out there. But when I'm looking at complete teams that can beat you multiple ways, this is a good matchup coming up. 49ers, Eagles. Great matchup.
They played on Thanksgiving. They lit things up on Thanksgiving. Do you know who also lit things up on Thanksgiving? Was Ike Reese and his mac and cheese. Because he brought some in, and we all got to look how happy this man
is. He came in on his day off.
I have never seen a smile this big, maybe besides when Jake Elliott hits a 59-yard field. Oh, Fran with the reception
I mean,
right
kind
there.
of excited.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a terrible angle. And this is why I have a question
listen.
here.
Yes.
You delivered that. Did you have some in the car ride over?
Yeah.
No.
Because we opened it up, I was like, what is going on over here?
Well,
That's bad form.
as the chef, I had to
gotta say.
taste it before I got it to you guys to make sure everything was
Evened
right.
it out.
Well,
Mike Quick.
Q got some.
Mike had some. He came in on Friday. We said
He
you got to
made
have
sure.
some.
Okay.
He gave it a double thumbs up. He was very impressed.
Okay, so everybody was cool with it.
Yes, everybody was excited.
I'm a little nervous when I started bringing food outside the house, but you guys had it last year.
Yes, we had it last year.
And I was pleasantly surprised that you wanted more this year. So, is that a tradition now?
Yeah. Once you do it twice, now it's part of the routine.
Now every year I got to make 2 pans.
I mean, look, we're playing on Christmas Day. That's all I'm saying. You know, we might need it for the postgame.
Subtle hint, Ike. Yeah.
Subtle hint.
Yeah.
We'll talk in a few weeks.
We're all carbon up for the big game. All right, that's going to do it for us. The Eagles are now 10-1 after their overtime win over the Buffalo Bills. We'll be back in action next Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. We'll be here after the game to talk all about it, so you don't want to miss that. For Ike, Fran, our entire production team, I'm Marisa Pilla. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next Sunday.